Welcome everyone to our cybersecurity career event. I am thrilled to see so many of you here. My name is Jasmine Cardona, and I serve as the Executive Director of Economic Development and Community Partnerships at the College of Staten Island. I'm also serving as the Interim Director for the CSI Technology Incubator. If you've joined us for previous events, welcome back. And if this is your first time with us, we are so pleased to have you with us tonight. So to share a little bit about our mission at the incubator, we are deeply committed to empowering innovation by supporting entrepreneurs as they grow and scale their ventures. But our mission extends beyond that. We are deeply committed to creating educational and career pathways. We do that through training, mentorship, and offering accessible resources to help professionals and aspiring tech leaders to build successful businesses and rewarding careers in fields such as cybersecurity. And as part of our commitment, we are excited to announce that we will be opening our new innovation hub at Lighthouse Point in early 2025, which will also feature a new AR/VR lab. So we invite you to stay connected with us by visiting our website and subscribing to get future updates on upcoming events. So thank you all for being a part of our mission. And now I am delighted to introduce to you our speaker, who will be sharing valuable insights into the growing and field of cybersecurity. Welcome, Asha.
Thank you. Thank you, Jasmine. It is an honor and a privilege to be here speaking to you guys and talking about cybersecurity. This presentation is really intended to be as a guide, as many of you are interested in this space. So this really aims to help you figure out what that path might look like for you. Happy to be here. And just to go over the agenda, so we're clear on expectations, I will start with a quick introduction before we cover the current state of the industry as it is today. I will highlight some of the career pathways that's open to you, some of the specializations that you can pursue, some of the essential skills and certifications that'll allow you to kind of differentiate yourself among the competition. And we will look at how best to navigate roles from entry level and then advance as you grow in your career. We will cover aspects and some of the requirements on how best to build a compelling cybersecurity portfolio, and cover the importance of networking and engaging with the communities in a meaningful way. Some of the challenges that's relevant to the space is something that I want you to be aware of, and we'll share some practical strategies on how best to overcome them. And those are some of the topics that I want to cover before we pause for Q&A. And then I also have some additional resources that you can use to take actionable steps forward in this pursuit. So that's basically the agenda that I have for you. And with that, let me just give you a quick overview of how I got to be where I am. So I started off as a network engineer. I moved into security engineering over time. I was in the industry for about 12 years before I got into technology consulting. And now I lead the cybersecurity practice at HubSpire, which is a digital services firm that I own with my husband. And within cybersecurity, we help our clients with all elements of cybersecurity, from strategy, governance, enterprise risk management to controls, architecture, design, and implementation. I have about 25 years of experience in this space, and I live in Jersey with my husband, 2 boys, and our pet Rottweiler named Tank. So that's a little bit about me. And let's move on to what this space is really like. What does the industry look like for cybersecurity? As you can tell, and I can tell based on the interest here for this session, this is a space that is growing exponentially, right? The market itself is projected to grow from 218 billion to about 345 billion in another couple of years, right? And the reason for this growth is because of the frequency and the sophistication of the attacks, right? And the jobs in the space, the open roles in the space have surged by over 35% in the last 5 years, right? Which means that this is a space where there is a high demand for skilled professionals. And that's the growth. But the reason for the growth is the threats that's relevant to this landscape. Ransomware attacks have increased over 105% in 2021 and impacted about 35% of global organizations. Phishing is one of the top vector for breaches today, and about 36% of all breaches is through phishing. And does anybody actually know what phishing is? Raise your hand and put it in the chat if you can, because I know there's quite a few folks in this session. Phishing, fake emails, stealing. No, not really phishing. Somebody said you go fishing. Luring. It's kind of similar to luring. Yes, social engineering, baiting people to give their personal info. So I think, who was that said it? Sean Q. But phishing is basically baiting, right? That's why it sounds like fishing, right? Like you would actually go to fish. So it's baiting people to give out information that can then be used to either perform compromise their account, or steal information or sabotage cybersecurity systems or anything like that, right? So that's what phishing is. And ransomware is basically just that, holding your tech or anything that is valuable from a digital perspective, ransom for money. And all of these are crimes, right? So these kind of, thank you for those that have responded, but these are the kind of threats that are relevant, and it's growing, right? Because these days in this digital economy, information is really the life source of markets, right? And revenue generation. So digital assets have become the focus, which is why cybersecurity is growing as it is now. And the average cost of a data breach last year was about 4.45 million, which is about $5 million, right? So that's the cost of a breach. So, it highlights the need for strong cybersecurity practices. Who can tell me, when I say cyber security, what does that actually mean to you? Can you just try and explain your understanding of what cybersecurity means? Put it in the chat so I'll see where. Protecting people's digital assets, correct. Protection of data, ability to protect data. Yes. So, okay, you guys have an idea, absolutely. Yes, it is. It's definitely to do with protection, right? Now, the thing is, cyber risk is basically the potential for loss, right? That's basically what risk is, potential for a loss event. And cyber risk is the risk that technology introduces into your environment. And technology can be of three main domains, right? There's the IT, which is information tech, that is any systems or information technology that allows you to process information and drive your business model or operations through information systems. That's IT, information tech. Then you have operational technology. That is like anything that can actually affect the physical world, right? It is a little bit different from IT. OT is almost like nuclear power plants. It is like your traffic signals, right? Like as the colors change, you can actually control traffic, right? In the real world. Your thermostats, if it is smart, if it has an IP address and can be connected via an app, right? It's part of the OT, right? Operational tech, because it can actually change the temperature of your house, your office environment. So anything that can actually affect the real world is operational tech. Supply chain, manufacturing lines, all of these are examples of operational tech. And then the last domain of tech is the consumer tech. That is all of your wearables, right? Your Fitbits, your Apple Watches, anything that you have on yourself, your cell phones, all of that is consumer tech. Any kind of technology that you use in a home or office environment. And somebody, I think Mustafa says, protecting the availability, integrity, and it's actually confidentiality of data. Yes, you got that. That's nail on the head right there. So basically, cyber risk is the risk that any kind of technology introduces into your into your environment. And then cybersecurity is basically how you protect or address that risk exposure. Basically, that's what cybersecurity is. And when you think about cybersecurity, there's really three dimensions you think of. That is the availability, integrity, and confidentiality of information or data, because data is the lifeblood of the digital economy. So when you say availability, is just making sure that data or systems that host this data is available when you need it. Integrity is making sure that it is not modified, updated, changed, deleted, created in an unauthorized way, right? Making sure that you can trust the data, right? That is how you protect the integrity of data. And then confidentiality is making sure only authorized personnel or systems have access to this information or data or systems, right? So anytime you're thinking of cybersecurity, you're protecting confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information or any system that hold the data, right? So that's basically what cybersecurity is. And if there is a weakness in the way you protect the CIA dimensions of your information or information system, that's how breaches happen. That's how your systems are compromised. And that's what costs organizations about $5 million for a breach. Does that all make sense now? I hope it does. Now, what are some of the emerging trends and challenges in this space, right? First, and this must be very familiar to you, AI and machine learning, right? AI is basically, we can call it artificial intelligence or augmented intelligence, right? And that capability, because of the compute power that we have available today, it can actually aggregate and process information and data at incredible speeds, right? And that allows us to respond a lot quicker by analyzing millions of data points in real time, right? But just like any tool can be used for good or bad, 20% of organizations are reporting that attackers or threat actors are using AI to automate attacks, right? So, that's why it's a good thing that, AI is available to us as a capability. It'll allow you to be more effective, but the threat actors are using it too, which makes it a challenge as well, right? Now, cloud security challenges, like a lot of organizations, right, are moving to the cloud because it's easier for them to scale. They don't have the overhead of maintaining systems on their premise. They don't need to hire for very specialized skills or resources to manage infrastructure on-prem. So it's a lot easier to just host everything in the cloud. But just because they're doing that, that space is expected to grow really fast, right? I think there's a research finding that says the global cloud security market is estimated at $12.5 billion in 2022, and it's expected to grow to $37 billion by 2028 because there is a lot of cloud adoption, right? And cloud adoption, because it is increasing, you need cloud engineers now, right? To be able to design and implement systems in the cloud, right? Misconfigurations because cloud accounts or the systems in the cloud are not configured correctly or managed well. 82% of security incidents in the cloud is because of misconfigurations, according to IBM X-Force, right? So that is another space that, is struggling to find the right talent that can help protect that space. Then you have the zero trust architecture, right? So before the digital economy, we had boundaries, right? Offices, you had to actually be in the office to be productive, to be able to work. Now, though, especially since the pandemic, everything, or it's either on the way to being digitized, or it's already digitized, which means that you can be productive anywhere in the world, right? So this week I had to actually travel to a different part of the country for a family commitment, and I am still online. I am still able to fulfill my commitments, right? My professional commitments, because tech allows you to do that today, right? But what does that also do? That allows you to introduce more potential for loss, because there is no boundary today. Technology has made the globe so connected that it is it doesn't matter where you are geographically, right? The boundaries don't matter. I can speak to my parents in India. I can have friends in Dubai, and I could be in the US and serve or support clients in Europe, right? It doesn't matter, because tech has actually made the globe that much smaller and accessible, right? So zero trust is basically a principle to secure your environment in a way that you're not trusting any connections, any access, unless you verify the identity for that connection and the authorization levels for that connection. Now, question for you guys on the phone, attending the session. Do you know the difference between authentication and authorization? Put it in the chat. I just want to know if you do. Explain it. What is authentication and how is it different from authorization? Right, Richard says. So yes, authentication is verification, but what are you verifying? Your identity. Dima said that, correct. And authorization basically is figuring out what you're allowed to do once you've been given access, right? So authentication is making sure that I am who I say I am. My identity is being verified before I'm given access. And then authorization is basically, once I'm given access, controlling what I'm allowed to do, right? With that access, that's authorization. Yes. So zero trust, all this time, what happens is, in the legacy models on how enterprises were usually architected, the authentication and the authorization happens one time, for that initial ingestion point into the network. But zero trust verifies your identity and your authorization levels periodically. So it does not trust anyone inside or outside. In the legacy model, once you're inside, you became part of a trusted circle. In the zero trust models, nobody is trusted, no connection is trusted, and everybody has to verify their identity and their authorization levels at a specified frequency, right? And that actually is a model that has lowered the attacks, right? So it is actually reduced the impact of breaches by 50% because you are not allowing compromised assets to infect other parts of your organization because you are almost in a containerized environment. So before, because everybody inside was trusted, if you're able to compromise some part of your environment, it was easy to move laterally and compromise the rest of the environment a lot easier, right? It was to, you could move laterally a lot easier than it is if you have zero trust architecture. If you've implemented that within the way you've built out your environment, your networks. Then the other emerging trend or challenge is your supply chain. And you can read about stories in the news a lot these days where a company or an organization can be breached or compromised because their vendor or third-party partner was compromised, right? Because everybody is so dependent on the supply chain that if they do not protect their digital assets, and if that is compromised, there is a very high chance that you can be compromised because you have a critical dependency on that third-party service provider, right? So look at the numbers, right? Supply chain attacks have increased by over 300% in 2021 alone, right? And the recent SolarWinds breach show you it was just a patch that was shared through established authorized channels that compromised entire base of endpoints in organizations, right? So because of its ability to impact organizations at scale, the US has actually passed new standards that require organizations to really focus on their third-party risk management processes, right? Now it is a law that third-party service providers have to actually attest to the security controls within their environments. And then another trend or challenge in this space, one that you should be aware of, is the shortages and the skill gaps, right? 70% of the organizations today report that they don't have adequate talent to help them with their cybersecurity challenges, right? And because of that, they're, because organizations are exposed, they don't have the right people to help them protect their digital assets, they have critical dependencies on third parties that may not have good security. The governments are stepping in and creating new regulations that they hope will force cybersecurity as a boardroom agenda, which means that they expect organizations and enterprises and corporations to actually take cybersecurity seriously, right? Otherwise, they find them and they can actually shut them down if there's a pattern of continued breaches. So the regulations is one of the main drivers I've seen that forces organizations to take cybersecurity seriously, right? And then post-pandemic, like I was just saying before, organizations had to kind of pivot really fast and allow their workforce to work from anywhere, right? And that introduces a lot of risk because, again, you're coming in with your own devices that is connecting to the corporate network and resources. And if your device is not secured or does not meet the enterprise security standards, if your device is compromised, there is a potential that you could compromise everything that your device has connections to. So that is another reason this space is growing as it is. And then the last but not the least, there is a concern around quantum computing, right? Now, this is compute power that is exponentially faster and more powerful than what we have today. So in the next 10 to 15 years, what they say is if we have quantum computers available to us, like how we have our Windows and MacBooks today, the encryption algorithms we have in play that protect data around the world is going to be broken in seconds. So right now, encryption is the way that most data is protected, right? You just have ways to kind of encode data so that only authorized systems and individuals can decode it, because there is a key exchange that happens in the background that allows you to read information that is protected by encryption. Now, the reason that works today is because the compute power we have today, it'll take that compute power years to break that algorithms and compromise the encryption algorithms to be able to read the data that is supposed to be secret. But if you have access to quantum computers, you can break that algorithm in seconds, and then none of the encryption algorithms or cryptographic algorithms that are in play today will serve its function. So that is a threat and a concern that is very relevant. And I think there are active working groups and sessions happening to figure out how to work around quantum compute power in the future and protect the encryption strategies in play today. So those are some of the emerging trends in this space. And now I'd like to actually share two resources here, and you will have access to this deck. You just have to work with the organizers for this event, if I could just speak right, from the College of Staten Island and the Tech Incubator for it. But these two resources I'll actually show you. This is going to be very useful for you, especially as students or recent graduates, just to give you insight into what is available to you as a career in cybersecurity, right? What's your pathway? What are your options for career pathways, right? These two resources will actually help a lot. So the first one is basically from CyberSeek. And this actually shows you, let me click on it so you know how that opens up, and I'll navigate to it. So basically you go in there, you have an option to explore the career pathway. You go in it and you'll see it list out all of the feeder roles, right? And a lot of the feeder roles, as you can see here, most of them are tech, right? Are technical, right? Because that is the easiest way to enter this field. Because, like I said before, cyber risk is the risk that technology introduces into your environment. So the more comfortable you are with technology, the more you'll be able to protect it from being compromised, right? So the traditional path into cybersecurity is really through a technical role. I actually started as a network engineer 25 years ago, right? So if I pick this up, you will see these are the positions. So if you see these columns, the ones in blue are the entry level roles available to you as someone from the networking space, right? These are the entry level roles. And then if I start out as a cybersecurity specialist, I can flow into or grow into one of the mid-level roles, right? Cybersecurity analyst. I could end up as a cybersecurity consultant or a pen tester, right? That's a good way to ramp up and, get into this field and grow in it. If I am a pen tester, you see, these are the different paths. I can switch into a consultant. I can also become an analyst, right? That can actually predict and analyze incidents. Forensic analysis is something that is in demand, especially when organizations go through a breach. So you can move that way in that column, and then you can also grow into engineer that design and implement systems, or you can become architects that architect large scale solutions at the enterprise level, right? So these are some of the ways. And then because you started out, I clicked on a pen tester, you scroll down, it'll show you what your average salary is, what are the common job titles, what kinds of skills are going to be relevant to this space, right? What is the projected growth over 5 years for each of those skill set? What are some of the certifications that they look for, right, as a pen tester? What level of education is typically requested for someone in this role? What are the total job openings and the kinds of skills that are relevant, right? So say, for example, I look at, say, IT auditor, right? You see, the average salary becomes 85,000. Titles are here. These are the skills, some of the certifications that are relevant, the level of education that is requested, and some of the skills, right? That's CyberSeek. And then the next one was, this is something that the National Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency puts out. And this is also pretty neat. This is a little more detailed. So you can actually go into the Cyber Career Pathways tool. And as you can see, it actually lays out the different domains that merge, right? That you can actually navigate into or across this space. So if you, again, because you guys are recent graduates or in school still, and I'm assuming you're, in one of the tech fields, I'll start with IT, and I will select, when I select IT or say cybersecurity, I will actually, let me start from scratch, because that is something that I chose. So if I choose IT, it shows me all of the roles that are relevant to IT that could feed into cybersecurity, right? So now, say, for example, I choose technical support, right? And I can actually compare this to another role that I want to actually target and grow into, right? So say I'm in technical support today, but I want to actually end up as, say, pen tester. So I would just look at, let me just type in Penny. Oh, systems testing and evaluation. Okay. So basically, this will allow me to compare and contrast the two job roles or, roles that I'm interested in. So say, for example, I'm starting out as a technical support resource. What is my job responsibility here? What are the relevant functions, the kind of trainings that are available to me? And a lot of these are available to you to kind of grow in that specific space. And if I want to be a pen tester, basically I will end up in that space, the systems testing and evaluation, right? So again, it'll show me what that job looks like, the kinds of titles, the relevant courses for me in that space. And then the good thing is there's videos of like folks that explain this, so you don't have to read through it. And then it shows you the overlap between the two roles. As you can see, some of the knowledge from IT support to testing or like becoming, growing in that role, you have a lot of the knowledge, expertise already, like knowledge base is there. So that should be an easy transition. And then from an overlap perspective, about 25, 26%, right? Overlap from responsibilities, functional overlap perspective. Actually, no, overlap is only 5%, but this is all together, I guess this is everything, all to 8 task statements. Okay, so this actually will explain what that means, right? Or like this is basically the things you would be doing in that specific role. So, of all the things that you're expected, where you have a C and a C, that's the overlap, and that's why it is only 20%. You don't have a lot of tasks that's expected in both these roles that are common, right? But this gives you information like that. It'll show you also the kinds of knowledge that you need and the skills that you would be expected to be um, competent in a role like that, right? So it'll give you that capabilities indicators, especially for the different levels, right? Entry level, intermediate level, advanced levels, common relationships, right? Across it. So these are great resources when you start out your career and you're exploring areas that interest you, right? So again, the good thing about cybersecurity is that it is so broad that you can explore and still learn from it. No time is wasted because anything you learn in your journey is going to add context and make you more useful as someone that can actually protect the cyberspace and digital assets. So play around with it. It takes a minute, and it has guides. These resources have guides that'll show you how to use it well. So when you have your hands on it, play with it and figure out, where you want to take your career, right? Explore options. And with that, I just want to move on to, give me 1 second, just making sure I'm staying on time. Okay, what are some of the essential skills that are going to be key for success in this space? Like I said, traditional pathways are really from tech, right? So you are expected to have good knowledge, foundational knowledge of networking infrastructure and how to protect networking devices, right? Or technologies like firewalls, VPN connections, intrusion detection or prevention systems, networking protocols, right? All of that you have to be able to understand. You don't have to no, you don't have to be a subject matter expert in any one of these, but you have to know enough to understand all of the ways that it can be compromised, right? Reading is a good way to kind of get your, um, you know, knowledge spruced up there. And same thing with operating systems, because end of the day, you connect to the world through a device that has an operating system installed on it. So the most common ones, Windows, Linux, Unix, Mac systems, understanding how all that works is also something that is going to be useful for you if you want to be successful in this space. Scripting and programming, not expert level, but basic knowledge of languages like Python, PowerShell, so that you can automate some of the routine tasks that you will be expected to cover in your day-to-day. It'll be a lot useful for you. And then again, if you like penetration testing, vulnerability assessment, figuring out all of the ways to break a system or break an application or find out, ways to compromise an application, if that is your thing, if that interests you, penetration testing and vulnerability assessments are great spaces for you to kind of get into. And there's plenty of resources that are free and available for you to kind of grow and establish your credibility in the space. And a lot of these tools are also available. These are free resources available to you. So knowing how to break a system, compromise a system is also key. That shows that, if you don't know how to break something, if you know how to break something, you will then learn how to fix it. Like, when you're trying to protect something, you have to know all of the ways it can be broken, right? But that doesn't mean that you will know all of the ways it can be broken. And just because you can't break it doesn't mean that the system cannot be broken, right? So there are some contradictions there, but knowing how a system can be compromised is going to be a useful skill for you to be competent in this space. And then incident response and forensics, there's very specific protocols and processes and artifacts that you will need to be able to respond in a timely and effective manner when there are incidents, right? And it's not a matter of if organizations are going to be compromised, it is a matter of when they will be compromised, right? Because anything can be compromised and you are not going to be able to protect something 100% of the time, right? It is just not something that works in our favor, right? So we have to always be defending. And so right now, it's not about preventing a breach, it's about how well you can respond and recover from a breach, so you're minimizing your impact to your operations, right? It's minimizing the disruption. That is how you measure your resilience, right? How quickly you can recover and resume operations, normal operations. So that's another skill that you're going to have to kind of learn as you grow in this space. And then cryptography, it's basically encryption methods, right? Some of the technologies that are relevant to data protection and secure communication protocols there. So those are some of the technical foundational areas that you're going to have to start getting interested in and learning about. And then from a soft skill perspective, you have to be a critical thinker. You have to like solving problems. You have to be able to analyze complex problems because, technology is interconnected. So there is a lot of intra and interdependencies that you'd have to understand. And to be able to develop effective security solutions. And then you have to have great communication skills, because a lot of the time you may be technical, but a lot of your stakeholders may not be, right? So you have to be able to bridge that gap. And then you have to have great attention to detail, because, because this is a tech problem, The data points that generated, especially in today's digital economy, is just so much that if you miss the outlier, if you do not understand what your baseline behavior looks like, it's going to be easy for you to miss the signals for the, among the noise. So you have to be someone that care about the details, that notice the details in your everyday. And then you have to be great at collaboration and teamwork because, in college, your advancement is really based on your individual contribution and effort. But once you enter the workforce, it's not about how well you can do on your own anymore. Once you are part of the workforce, it's how well you collaborate and how well you work within a team, because how well do you actually um, uh, allow for success as a team, right? Because it's just a lot harder, I guess, to bring a diverse set of folks aligned on the same agenda and moving forward in the same direction. So your ability to kind of I say herd cats is going to be very important as you start working. Excuse me. And then adaptability, right? You have to be able to flex to respond to new challenges and evolving threat, which is a constant in this space. Some of the key certifications that's going to be relevant to you, again, by the level of maturity that you are at in your career is listed on this slide, and feel free to kind of research each one to see which ones interest you, and depending on where you are in your journey, pursue this. Like for me, I think I was in the industry for about 10 years before I decided to pursue the CSIP certification. And that was just after I decided that I wanted to move into security engineering from being a network engineer. Once I got the CSIP, the next year, I think I went for the CISA, and after I did the CISA, I think I waited 2 years, and I did another specialization cert that is also offered by ISC Square, which is the ISSAP, which is like a certified security architect. So that's how this worked out for me. But having a certification is a great thing in this space because, like I said, I know a lot of people that didn't go to school for computer science or didn't have an IT background, but ended up in this space because they were very interested. That has to be key. And they took the certifications, right? Because certifications allow you to start the conversation with the security professional at the same level, right? Like if I'm talking to somebody that is certified, I know exactly what they know, and I don't have to think about if I talk security, I don't know how much they're actually understanding, right? So security certifications is a great way for you to kind of establish credibility within the community, really, right? So definitely encouraged. These are security certifications, and those two resources I shared before. There's other certifications too that you can pursue depending on your interest levels. And then the other thing that is very important in this space is being relevant and on top of what is happening in this space, right? So you have to actively check out blogs and news sources. You have to kind of listen to podcasts. You have to kind of read industry reports to see what the trends are. And then joining organizations like ISC Square or ISACA or SANS Institute is a great way for you to kind of establish a network, which is another thing that is so important. And I stress this for kids that are coming out of college only because remember, in this world, it's not what you know, it's who you know, right? So invest in building a professional network and keep in touch with them, right? Make sure you have live links to your network endpoints, right? Because over years, right? Like I was in corporate America for about 19 years before I decided to venture out on my own. And my first client as a small business owner was somebody I worked with 6 years before that point, right? And she just randomly reached out to me because we kept in touch. We used to hang out once in a while. And she's like, what are you doing? I need help with this. Are you available? And I'm like, of course I'm available, right? So what I'm saying is, and that's not just a story that's unique to me. That's the story that I hear from a lot of my professional connections, right? Establish your network, right? And keep them, with you. Take them with you, right? Keep them updated on things that are happening, changes. Like if you get a new certification, or if you've moved states or you move jobs, make sure you let everybody know. And LinkedIn makes it so easy to do that, right? So networking is great, is important, is key. And organizations or memberships in organizations like ISC Square and ISACA allows you to build that, right? ISACA is a lot more active in the space of networking and having events. And I'm only calling these out because these are security organizations, right? These are organizations that actually certify professionals with credentials that's relevant in the security space. And SANS Institute is another great organization that's a nonprofit. And once you register and become a member, you have access to a ton of resources that'll allow you to kind of get your CPE credits if you have a certification, and one other thing about certification is that once you have a certification, you have to actually continue education, right? It's called CPEs, or continued professional education credits or something like that, right? So you have to spend about, I think, 20 to 40 hours a year studying, right? So I think attending a webinar gives you like 1 or 2 CPEs, and you have to collect about 20 or 40 of them every year for every certification you have. So, and these organizations have a ton of resources that allow you to kind of collect the CPE credits. So, very useful. And then some of the tips to navigate your roles, right, as you mature and grow in this space. You start with foundational certifications. I take part in competitions. Like a lot of these competitions that's out there is actually free. It's because it's a competition. They're looking for talented resources that can actually help in this space. And then pursue internships, right? And then every event that you're a part of, make sure that you are building a network. Create an Excel spreadsheet or tracker, right? You get their contact information or LinkedIn profile, and make sure you have some context, right? So when you have these networking sessions and you meet someone, initially it'll be very shallow because it's obviously just the superficial things that you're going to exchange as information in that first connection. But if you can get deeper, that's the goal, right? Like, if you know anything about them, record that in your tracker. And then, during the holidays, which is what I do, right? Like Thanksgiving or any holiday that is, relevant in the area that you're at, just reach out and wish them, right? If you know their birthdays, right? Perfect time to kind of wish them. So, over time, and then if you're in the city or if you're in an area where they'll be at, say, I'm around, if you're free, let's grab a cup of coffee. It's 15 minutes, half an hour, right? Block the time on their calendars, make it easy for them, right? To show up. And then you do that over time, you start building depth. And every time, and this is something that I learned when I was a management consultant at PwC, it's when you try to establish a relationship, you have to look at how you can add value to the other person that you are trying to build a relationship with. And usually it's like a mentor, right? Somebody that you see yourself as over time, right? Like, so if you are a recent college graduate that is interested in pen testing, you want to look at pen testers that have been in this space for at least 5-10 years. And then you want to see what a day in the life of a pen tester is actually like. So you would try and reach out to them and say, hey, listen, this is a space I'm very interested in. Would you mind having coffee with me? I'd like to know what your day is like, right? Can I shadow you, right? Or something like, how can I help you, right? Is there anything that you're looking at? Is there a specific area of research that you'd want me to process and share the keynotes for, right? Find ways to add value to the person that you want to establish or build a relationship with. That is key, and that is the way you build depth into the relationship, right? So every time, that person is thinking of something that they need help with, your name comes to the front, right? So that's a good way to kind of build a network. And then transition to specialization. So once you are in that space, you have your foot in the door, start looking at things that you want to specialize in, a focus area, right? So I've heard this saying, right? So in the 20s, basically you're exploring all of the different careers that are open to you, right? And again, there is no mistakes you can make because you learn from everything that didn't work for you, right? If anything, you will learn what you don't like, right? Even if you wasted a year, it's really not wasted if you learn from it, right? That year allowed you to learn that pen testing is really not your thing, and you'd rather be in SOC, in the Security Operations Center, right? So 20s really, from a career path perspective, and again, this is a very generalized perspective, but in the 20s, you're exploring. In the 30s, you start specializing, because now you kind of have your foot in the door, you're getting comfortable, and now you want to, what you like, right? And then you can start specializing. And then the 40s, you're an expert, right? And then you're actually contributing to that space in a way that is at scale, right? And in the 50s, you start leading, right? You're leading that space. And then in the 60s, you transition, right? You pass the baton on. So that's basically the career map. Typically, again, traditionally, there's 100,000 different ways to divert from that, but start off exploring, but then you have to eventually start specializing, right? And then depending on your interest and what you're good at, right? Because you have to be good at it, right? You have to, because unless you're good at it, as you specialize, make sure that you start, you're doing that in a space that you actually are good at. So this way, it's easier and faster for you to be an expert in it, right? And once you're an expert, and when I say an expert, it's like for that thing that you're good at and that you like doing, you become the point person. Everybody knows your name for that one thing. right? So once you become that way, that's how you kind of start growing, right? So you can start off as an analyst, learn the space, understand how threats, why threats are threats, what kind of threats are relevant to a specific asset, an environment, and things like that. And once you understand enough about that landscape, you can move into engineering, where you're actually building stuff or building solutions or systems that cannot be compromised based on how you've seen assets being compromised. And then once you're comfortable there, you can then transition to, say, an incident response area. You can lead that space. You can, because now you've learned about all of the ways that an asset can be compromised and how you would build it differently. You can help your clients recover and resume operations a lot more effectively and at speed. As an incident response resource. And then once you do that well, over time, you can actually manage that space, right? And then over time, you can lead that space. And the time between these different shifts are totally up to you, right? You get to decide how fast or how slowly you want to transition across these different roles. And then developing leadership skills. So eventually, you're going to have to move your focus or shift your focus to strategy. You have to think bigger than just a specific function that you're hired to do in a company or in an organization, right? You have to think, how would you scale this up to be relevant to an enterprise, to a department, right? To many departments, right? You have to think about risk management from a more holistic perspective, organization level, or like for a region across the different regions in a globe, right? You have to start thinking bigger, right? And spanning a lot more in terms of coverage and scope, right? You have to be able to manage people, right? Which is the hardest thing, really, right? Leading a team, right? Because when you start managing people, when you start leading, you are still accountable for the deliverables, but you take the blame, right? The kudos and the accolades you share with the team, but the blame stops at you. You don't pass the buck on to your team. They're not the ones that are going to take the fall. It's you, right? So that is a way for you to kind of grow in this space, right? So as any space, this developing leadership skills, that is not just specific to cybersecurity. That is any space that you want to grow as a leader in. And then the key to growth, what is that? Your ability to continually learn, cross-skill, right? And contribute in meaningful ways to the communities that are in your sphere of influence, right? These are some of the ways you stay relevant. And that is very important in this space because it is so fluid. And then you have to be able to build a strong portfolio. This is, basically showing all of how you're valuable, right? What do you bring to the table, right? So this is something that you're going to have to start building, right? And every professional in whatever space they're in, they have to have this, right? So most of the time, just make sure, again, when you're exploring, you are introduced to a variety of projects, right? That allow you to highlight all of the different skills that you've had to kind of engage. So that's, something that you should be conscious about. And then be very good and detailed about documentation. This is a gap that I've seen over and over again. So the better you are at documentation, that much more valuable you're going to be as an asset to any organization that you're going to be a part of, right? Because this is a systemic gap that I've seen across a lot of my clients over the last 25 years, right? So learn to document, right? Technical documentation, writing documentation, technical documentation, that is key, right? Even when you code, you have to be able to write code in a way that is easily understood, right? The comments and the structure, the schema that you use, it has to make sense, right? And then, how well you document really highlights your problem solving process. It shows how your brain works and how you think about the impact that your work is going to be having on that problem or challenge. Online presence. So, if you're into coding and things like that, you can actually use resources like GitHub to showcase your code, right? Present your findings or document your or record or it's like a safe store of scripts or tools that you've created that'll add value to some problem or challenge that you've had to solve. Maintaining a professional LinkedIn profile is foundational. That's basic. That is expected. That's table stakes now, right? So don't even think that's an option. So all of you should really have a very compelling LinkedIn profile. And then you can also have personal websites or blogs where you're presenting your projects, whatever you've worked on, and contributing to technical articles. That's another thing that is very useful. And then, there is a lot of open source projects that are relevant to this space. Metasploit is a tool suite that is used for penetration testing, right? If you are in the vulnerability management space. And OWASP is an organization that is there to promote secure coding practices. So depending on where you see yourself, right now, you can choose where you want to contribute, explore each of these options, and then read about them first, right? So you understand the context and what it is that their mission is. And, if you're drawn to it, that's where you kind of start spending time and start developing your own tools, right? To solve common challenges that they've shared on their platforms and contribute to the communities that you have access to, right? You have to show engagement and stay involved. And then some of the ways you can actually apply your skills is these capture the flag competitions, right? So it's practical real world challenges that you can actually engage with or participate in that demonstrate your problem solving abilities, right? And you can actually showcase your rankings in those events and have that on your resume or within your portfolio. You can use that as a icebreaker during your conversations at networking events. So all of this is to show how you are going to add value to any role that you are exploring, that you're interested in, that you're pursuing. And then networking and community engagement. Like I said before, the importance of building a professional network, I cannot highlight this enough, right? It is how you advance in your career. It's how you gain and share knowledge. And that network is going to be your support system, right? Especially during career transitions or challenges, you can reach out to them and figure out your way forward if you're stuck. And not a lot of these forums are, there are free forums too that you can actually join, right? Some of these, there is a fee like ISC Square, ISACA. Sans is free. but it's not that much. I think ISACA is about $125 a year to be a member, and they have a whole bunch of local events that you can be a part of, right? So joining local chapters of these organizations is a great way to kind of meet folks that's in this space local to your area, attending conferences and webinars. And again, these are paid conferences, but SANS has a ton of webcasts or webinars that are free available to you if you register with SANS. And then Cyberary, LinkedIn has a bunch of professional groups that you can be a part of, right? So use all of these to kind of start building your professional networks and to kind of learn more about this space. And then you always look for ways to contribute and volunteer, speak at events, right? Write blogs or volunteer at some of these events that you're going to know about or hear about or are interested in. And that's the way you kind of establish a credibility and visibility. And then, you know, some of the challenges that are common to the space, the threats, they keep evolving, right? Tech is so fluid. Every 18 months, I think the tech becomes obsolete, right? So there is no way you're going to be an expert in everything or know about all of these different technologies. So you have to keep pace with all that change, right? Constantly. That doesn't stop, right? And it's a high stress environment because if there is a breach, these are digital assets, you know, and so it comes with stress, right? You can't just disconnect, and most of the time you can't sign off at 5 and say I'm done for the day, right? You can be on call. A lot of these roles require you to be on call, right? Especially as you start out in this field. And so initially, at least, there will be long hours, right? That could impact your mental health and your well-being only because that's the nature of this space. It's like somebody going into healthcare, you know, where it's really life and death. But this is not as stressful as I think doctors or medical professionals have, but still, you know, because there's a whole lot of impact that is very real in real world, you know, it can be just as stressful too. So how do you stay resilient, and how do you sustain this like for the long run? Because, you know, when you're talking careers, you're talking about at least 40 years, right? You have to commit to regular training, certifications, and workshops so you are able to learn and stay relevant in this space. You are going to be able to manage, you should be able to manage your time well, right? You have to be able to prioritize your priorities in an effective way. Use tools for that, right? I have a log of, I keep a log of the time, my time log. My time is actually logged, right? And I actually have been doing that for like 7 years, I think now, right? So I know where I'm spending the time, and end of the year or end of the month, I look at it and make sure that I am happy at where I'm happy with where I'm spending my time, right? Across the different buckets that I've prioritized for my life. So you have to do the same, right? Start off being very diligent about managing your time, because remember, that is the one resource that everybody has the equal amount of, right? You and the president of the US have the same 24 hours in a day, right? So what you do with it matters. So be very good there. And then lean on your professional networks and mentors for guidance, advice, right? You're not the only one that is going through whatever it is that you're going to be going through in this space. So lean in on them and take care of yourself, right? You have to be able to combat stress in ways that work for you. And set clear career goals, right? You have to know where you're headed, because your career is something you steer and manage. Nobody else does that for you, right? and you have to remain adaptable to shifts in this space. So that's some of the ways, very basic, but it is important that you're aware of this. And with that, I'll pause for some questions. Feel free to write that in the chat.
So I marked some questions that have been said. One question was when you were talking about like the Seek website, if those were things that high schoolers could use, or like if high schoolers are looking for experience in internships, where could they go, like as a high school student to get that kind of um
Yeah, no, absolutely. You can definitely use it. You can use that, but the internships, I think it's some of these organizations have internships, but I don't think high schoolers, I think you have to be at least 16. So it depends on your age, for part-time options. I know it really is through, your contacts, and depends on the organization, how young they open up their internship programs for. I have not seen a candidate from high school for internships, actually, not yet. But again, I'm sure there is. I'm just not aware of it.
okay. Three more questions and then we can read chat. Can you get a job from just having certifications?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. I know many that have. And the thing is, remember, um, you may not be able to get into cybersecurity directly, but you go into a feeder role, right? You can actually take a Microsoft certification or an Azure, like a Microsoft, like, cloud certification, Azure, AWS certifications. And then once you are a cloud engineer, then you can transition into cybersecurity. Now you can actually be a cloud security engineer, right? But first, you take a technical certification, and then it's a lot easier to transition into a security role.
What do you think about the CCIE certification? I'm sorry, the Cisco certification is what they were asking.
Yeah, that's one of the best. But the thing is now, it is still very relevant, but the thing is, it used to be a lot more relevant back when organizations had to manage and protect devices on-prem. Now, a lot of it is in the cloud, and companies have vendors signed up to manage that infrastructure for them, right? So I think your target will be different now, right? I think it's easier to find a role with um, networking security companies with that certification these days. But again, that is a great knowledge or subject matter expertise to come into this space with. So it is very relevant, and I think it is very useful.
Do you happen to know if there are any websites to help beginners learn to code to gain real life experience?
Yes, I think MIT Scratch is one that just comes to mind because I had my boys get into it in middle school, I think. So yeah, and they make it fun too. So you learn the basic concepts, and now coding is there's a lot of tools and utilities that make it easier too, as long as you get the logic and the process.
Madi, would you like to ask your question?
Oh yeah, so hi, I'm a high school freshman, and I actually have some questions related to like the topic. So let's say that I just want to land a job as a lead software security engineer right after college, and so like the thing is that what are some preparations that I could do right now and during college to like get those big companies to notice me as a high school freshman?
You said you're in high school now?
Yeah, I'm a freshman.
Freshman in high school, okay. So the thing is, right, Do you know about operating systems?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. The thing is, any one of the vendor certifications like Microsoft, because a lot of the corporations actually have Microsoft endpoints, right? Like it's Microsoft
Yeah.
laptops that they use. So Microsoft's certifications are going to be very relevant, but from a network, like, end user support perspective. But then you have, tools that you use to support end users in an organization, like that makes remote administration endpoints easier. So there's a whole bunch of tooling that you can actually start getting comfortable with. But that is a very, get your foot in the door kind of way to explore this space. I think the easier way for you is to kind of grow in the space a lot faster is if you start getting interested in exploring cloud technologies. So explore AWS, explore Azure or the Google Cloud Suite, right? If you have one of those certifications coming out of high school, that's going to be very difficult given the curriculum that you have to kind of, you know, cover college applications and all of that good stuff. It is going to be very relevant. Cloud certifications are the number one because remember, everybody's moving to the cloud, right? So I would say cloud certifications, AWS especially.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, networking, right? So how to actually approach or like let's say ask out important people to actually talk to me about their uh right? And I know that it's gonna be much easier for me to in college because like I'm actually gonna be in a mature age, right? But like how to actually get them to notice me and like actually help me like during my high school years and like stuff and before college.
Yeah, so you like, you start with your family, your friends network, right? Make sure that, there are like, and if you don't, reach out on LinkedIn, right? Say, hey, listen, say you're in the space that I'm actually interested in, that I would love to pursue, but I would love a 15-minute chat with you. Can I buy you coffee? Right? Would you mind taking 15 minutes of your day to just um, go over your day, what your roles or, what you do, how you add value kind of thing, right? Ask most people, if you ask, they'll say yes, right? And the thing is, you're not going to, in high school, you're not going to, um, um, make sure it's actionable, right? Like it took me 25 years to get here where I run my own company, right? And as a high schooler, you're going to be interested in how to do that too. But if you want to, you have to target professionals that are in the space that you see yourself in the next 5 years. So that makes it more relevant. So it's somebody, so say, for example, you're in high school now. So you have to be looking to speak to somebody who is been working. If you want to start building a network, make sure you're looking to start conversation with somebody who's been working for 2 years after college, right? So this way you actually see, okay, what was the criteria they used to choose a college? And from that college, how do they choose a company to work for, right? Because now this is more tangible for you, right? If you have a conversation with me, you're talking 25 years and the world is a different place by then. What worked for me may not work for you, right? So start targeting conversations with folks that you can use to narrow down your path, your next steps, your immediate next steps. Does that make sense? I hope it does.
Yeah, it does. And like where could I like
I'm so sorry.
find
I'm so
those
sorry, Madi. I'm so sorry. We do have to just move on to some of the other questions. I
it's okay.
apologize.
It's all right.
Okay. Is it worth to start a career in cybersecurity when AI is taking over jobs that will be affected?
So see, AI is compute power, right? It's like how, uh, radio replaced, or radio and TV replaced newspapers, right? Um, it's like how emails replaced letters. AI is going to allow you to scale and speed up things very differently, right? At a scale that we've never even imagined possible. But human decision points are still relevant, right? You still need to build AI to work for you, right? So in the future, it's not AI that is replacing you. It is somebody who is using AI better than you that is going to be replacing you, right? You have to be able to leverage the tech in ways that, um, somebody else hasn't thought of, really. So I don't think AI is the threat. It's you being comfortable with AI that you have to kind of focus on.
Do you have time for more questions, Asha, or do you need to wrap up?
Yeah. I'll take
Is
it.
the road to get into digital forensics the same as getting into cybersecurity?
Digital forensics, if you really want to be taken seriously, you need experience. Because, you have to see how things can break. So that's not the first thing you will explore. You start off as a SOC analyst, right? If you want to end up there, you start as a SOC analyst, you monitor the landscape, and you figure out all of the different threat actors, agents, how it is actually working, how it navigates. You have to be an expert at how things are compromised, right? And then you can start um, um, specializing in forensics. But I think you need at least 5 to 8 years before you can actually get into that space.
Thank you. Do you believe it is viable for them to move up slowly from IT into cybersecurity, learning the basics instead of heading straight into it?
Repeat that question again. I came from IT. I started as a network engineer, so I would think yes, it is. Remember, if you have a technical background, it absolutely allows you to kind of move into cybersecurity a lot more. The transition is a lot more smoother, yeah.
Does military cybersecurity certifications and experience a good way to break into the field as they give you experience while in college and help you get clearance level?
Military experience. So are you talking about experienced professionals with, a military background getting into the workforce?
Who's there? Do you mind specifying? Yes.
Okay, yeah, no, absolutely, because a lot of the organizations I know actually have dedicated requisitions to hire military personnel. Yes, that is a very valuable skill set that they want within their workforce.
Okay, let me see. Okay, cybersecurity is one thing. There are many vendors, similar products offering from difference, and they're confused for the general certs. They want to know which ones are more helpful than others. They said general cert like CompTIA, CompTIA.
CompTIA. Yeah. See, the thing is, CompTIA is very general, but the thing is, it gives you the basics, right? You can't, you can't learn poetry unless you know your alphabets in a language, right? You have to learn basics first, right? And maybe it'll take you 1 month to get that certification. But once you have it, you know your ABCs. Now you can start, putting together words and then sentences. And then before you know it, you're going to be a poet, right? So that's the basics, right? This is, if you're a college graduate, if you're like in high school, that's just giving you the basics. But if you're more advanced and if you can actually, grasp these technical technologies a lot faster, I'll tell you, cloud, right? Big space, big data is a great space. And then cybersecurity. These are the 3 technology induced opportunities that you're gonna see exponential growth in, right? So depending on where you see yourself adding value, feel free to pursue it. And remember, the speed is totally up to you, right? I know of folks that have taken the CSIP in 1 week, and I know folks that are struggling to take the CSIP in 2-3 years that they haven't gotten the cert. So if you're comfortable with the space and the technical jargon that goes with it, you can accelerate that progression. So yeah.
Patrick would like to know, are there any books or websites that you recommend to read up on this information to get practice on real world applications, things like that?
It's actually in one of the slides, so here you go. I have
Perfect.
I
Okay.
have websites, online courses, certifications, conferences, webinars. You have all of that.
Okay. And don't forget, we will be giving you guys a copy of the PowerPoint as well. What do you think of the Google certification?
Google certification, a lot of organizations do use Google, but Microsoft is the most common cloud offering that I've seen enterprises actually have, right? So it's Microsoft and AWS, really, unfortunately. So I think Google's suite is better. That's just my opinion.
In the industry, what operating system do you work with the most? Which one do you find the most viable? And why do you think people don't use Linux daily?
I think ease of use. It's really Windows that have taken over the enterprise landscape. I think this is how it started, right? Like Microsoft made it so easy and accessible when it came out, and it was too late for anybody else to kind of change that. So right now, from current state, it's really Windows. And a lot of the creative spaces, startups and things like that, they use MacBooks, like we use MacBooks. But a lot of the enterprises in the US go for Windows.
I'm taking the Harvard CS50 introductory course to cybersecurity. Do you think it's a good place to start?
Howard is very expensive as a entry point, but it comes with the name, the brand. But cybersecurity, Harvard, is not one of those universities you would actually associate with cybersecurity. I would recommend certifications if you have that kind of resources. You're better off investing in getting certified, I would think.
I'm currently a college student. I was wondering what certification I would pursue if I'm starting to get into cybersecurity. Is it going to be that general one that you mentioned before, the Cisco?
Yeah. Cisco is not the general one. That is like a specialized field. That's networking,
I'm
right?
sorry, you said the COMT. My bad. My
Yeah,
apologies.
But again, it depends. It's such a broad field. I would recommend high schoolers to really go through the two career pathway resources I shared in the deck. Spend some time on it and figure out what interests you, right? So, and that'll tell you all of the certifications that those roles actually require. So choose one from there.
Mhm. Which cybersecurity product vendor do you recommend?
Totally do not recommend any vendor. We try and stay as effective as possible because end of the day, it's about how you protect information, right? You could use different tools to do the protection, but the tool is not the end game, right? That is just a means to get there. So you just remember your value add as a cybersecurity professional is to protect digital assets. How you protect it is totally up to you. And, don't be loyal to any tool. They change.
I'm a junior in college with a CS major. When will I know enough where I can confidently apply to internships? And are there certain subjects I need to know beforehand?
confidence is something that you're going to have to work on, right? And remember, it's I think a lot of that is conditioning, right? I think staying curious and being able to kind of market yourself as somebody that is quick to learn, or looking to solve problems or taking on challenges, right? That is the qualities I look for, not somebody that knows it all, because from college, everybody knows that you don't know it all. You don't know. Like most of what I know today, I didn't learn in college, right? I learned working, right? And a lot of what you're going to actually be doing is something that you're going to learn on the job, right? Because I think, the discipline, there's a lot of things that school and a formal education actually give you. It prepares you for the workforce, but what you actually do there to be valuable is not something they, a certificate, like, or a degree is not what's allowing you to be competent. It's a lot of other skills and I guess the way you're wired, right? So confidence comes when you start adding value, and you cannot add value till till you're doing something that you like doing and you're actually good at it, right? So start off in a space that you really, really like, right? That's my advice, right? Make sure you're going into cybersecurity not because you'll get a 6-figure job very fast, but because you really like being in this space. Because if you really like being in a space, you'll become really good at it. And if you're really good at it, the money will come. Does that make?
Oh, I apologize.
I hope it does.
The next few questions are kind of internship related, so I don't know if you wanted to maybe browse them to kind of give more of a summary of your thoughts versus each of them.
Yeah. Okay, absolutely. Yeah, internship opportunities, really, it's preparation for interviews. Okay, so I hope you guys all are familiar with and use Gen AI, right? ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude AI, right? So any role that you are interested in, you can actually have Gen AI generate questions, interview questions for a specific role, right? So take enough of them, and you'll get, at a point, you'll get comfortable in real world interview scenarios. And internships really is, that's you have to try and like network, right? And network is like, first you start with friends and family, and then use LinkedIn as much as you can, like second, third connections, depending on who you already know, and then have them make warm intros to somebody that you're interested in. And when you look for internships, don't ask for an open question, right? Go to a company's website, look to see if they offer internships, right? Look for a specific department on an area within the organization that they allow for internships in. And then you go into LinkedIn and see if you know anyone in your network that works at that company, right? And if you know someone that works in that company, and then you ask for a soft intro to get to that person. Once you get to that person, you say, hey, listen, thank you for connecting with me, but I was very interested in this role that this company is offering. Would you connect me to somebody that I can talk to about that role? You see what I'm saying? You have to make it easy for them to help you, right? If you look at some random person and say, hey, listen, I'm looking for internships, they are not set up to help you, right? So you have to do the groundwork first. Look at an internship, look at organizations that are offering internships, look for a specific role, and then make your search more targeted. So that's definitely something I would do. That's how I would approach it. Certain subjects you need to know beforehand, right? It depends on the role, right? Interns are really, you're just shadowing, you know, professionals in a space, right? So they're teaching you, it is on them to make sure they're teaching you. So you come in with the willingness to learn, really. So take the pressure off of you. You're a kid, you know, you're a student, you're looking to explore. So internships, it's really low pressure, but getting in is the hard part. I think that was yeah, I think that was it.
Great.
Yeah.
Asha, thank you so much. I have to say, one of the most compelling bullets that you shared or facts was that 70% of organizations feel that they don't have the infrastructure in terms of enough employees to, so there's definitely a demand.
Yes.
And if people are interested in this career field, then I think that was a great advice, that this is something you're going to enjoy and that you're passionate about. That's the key to being successful in anything. And I think that's very important advice. As always, you are incredible. Incredible information, incredible insights, and excellent advice. I think me and the team are taking notes for ourselves as well. But
Oh, Jasmine, you're too kind.
we love
But,
having you with us. We're so appreciative. I want to
Same.
thank everyone for joining us. Just as a reminder, we will be emailing you the recording of the presentation and the presentation slides. Please visit our website if you want to keep in touch with us in terms of upcoming events. So please subscribe and let us know if there are other topics that you're interested in us covering. We'll be happy to support you and continue to support you in your career aspirations and career exploration journey. So thank you again, Asha. Thank you everyone for joining us. Have a great night.